it's Katie Kelly, and today we're going to be installing S&B's cold air intake part number 755104 that fits the 2011 to 2016 Powerstroke 6.7 liter. So let's get started. Now that the parking brake's engaged and the engine's off, it's time to start by disconnecting the negative terminals on both batteries. And don't forget the other side. If you've noticed, I like to put a glove over it so it doesn't come back in contact with the post. Now that the battery is disconnected, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the harness clip on the mass airflow sensor and then pull out the locking tab and remove the mass airflow sensor. Now it's time to remove the stock intake cover, and we're going to do that by loosening the clamp, and we're going to remove these 4 clips from the box. Now that you have the clips unhooked and the clamps loosened, you can go ahead and remove the cover. Now we're going to remove the bolt that secures down the stock intake and then loosen the clamp on the turbo inlet. Now we're going to remove all of the hoses off the stock intake before we remove the intake tube. Now that all the hoses are disconnected, it's time to remove the intake tube. And we've found that it's easiest to pull away from the turbo inlet, turn it down, and then remove. Next, we're going to remove the screw that secures the airbox to the battery tray, but don't lose it because you will reuse it later. Now it's time to finally remove the stock airbox from the vehicle. And when you remove it, just make sure that the grommets didn't come out with it. So you're not quite done with your stock airbox yet. You're going to remove the stock inlet gasket and then put it on your brand new S&B box. Now we're going to install S&B silicone tube seal into the airbox. You might be wondering what this foam piece is for. Well, Ford implemented the secondary foam inlet to help protect against diesel runaway. So we took the same technology and we put it in our airbox. You're just going to take this foam piece and place it into our airbox and then secure it down with the retainer using the provided hardware. S&B gives you this optional box plug, and if you're wondering whether or not you should install it or not, basically if you live in 90 to 100 degree weather, you're going to want to install it to keep out excess engine heat. But we're going to leave it out today so we can take advantage of the maximum airflow. We're just going to set the rubber washer on top of the battery tray. We do it now because it'll be difficult later. Now it's time to install the S&B airbox into the vehicle, but first I'm going to remove the positive battery cable because when installing, the mounting tab hits it. Now that we've made a little bit more room, we're going to go ahead and install the box, making sure that the prongs are all the way in the grommets. Before you secure the box back down to the battery tray using that screw that I told you not to lose earlier, you're going to want to double check that the box is in place. And you can do that by checking to see if the inlet is lined up. Make sure that washer is still there and then install the screw and screw it down. After you finish tightening that bolt, you can go ahead and put the positive cable back on. Now it's time to install the S&B intake tube onto the vehicle. But before you do that, go ahead and install the coupler and make sure it's flush with the tube, and then put the clamps on, but don't tighten them down just yet. When installing the intake tube, you're going to want to put it in at the same angle that you removed the stock intake from, and then push it all the way through the tube seal until the bead, and then once it's in, you'll go ahead and twist it and get ready to install the clamps. Once the tube's in place, you'll go ahead and slide down the coupler onto the turbo and tighten the clamps. Now you're going to take the provided T20 Torx and remove the mass airflow sensor from the stock airbox. Now we're going to slide the mass airflow sensor into the pad and the gasket, and then install it into the tube. Tighten it down using the provided hardware. S&B offers 2 types of filters. We have the 8-layer cotton cleanable filter, and then we have the dry extendable filter, which you can extend the life of by blowing it out with compressed air. For the purpose of this video, we're going to use our 8-layer cotton cleanable. When installing the filter into the airbox, you'll just put it in at this angle. Once you make sure that the filter is secure on the tube, you're going to go ahead and tighten down the clamp. Don't forget to push the lid seal into the groove. If there's any extra, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and trim it off. After removing the protective layer from S&B's large clear lid, it's time to install it on the intake box. Make sure you secure it down using the provided hardware. We're almost done. Just don't forget to reconnect the mass airflow sensor harness. S&B provides this foam piece to prevent any rubbing from the AC lines to the intake tube. You're going to want to install the loop clamp to the stock mounting location so your lines don't go flopping around. Last but not least, reconnect the negative terminal on both sides. Now that we're done installing part number 7550104, you're going to see an airflow increase of 36.98%, an efficiency rating of 99.26%. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can download the full test results on our website, sbfilters.com.